1-inch sensor against 1-inch sensor, Zeiss T-Star coating against Zeiss T-Star coating. Which one is the winner here? Welcome to this camera review and Happy New Year. So let's get started. So let's check out the camera specs first. So we have a 1-inch sensor on both 12 megapixels on the Xperia Pro I and 50 megapixels on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Then we have an ultra-wide angle 16mm 12 megapixel on the Xperia. We have a 48 megapixel ultra-wide angle 14mm on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. And then we have a 64 megapixel telescope periscope zoomed 3.5 times on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, as well as a 2 times 50 megapixel telezoom as well. The Xperia Pro I has just a 50mm or 2 times telezoom lens here, also 12 megapixels. And on the front we have an 8 megapixel on the Sony and we have a 32 megapixel on the Vivo. And I think we start off with the front-facing videos. So this is now recording with the Sony Xperia Pro I and the front-facing camera using the Video Pro application. What do you think about the colors here, about the stabilization? Sadly only 1080p, but it's just an 8 megapixel camera, so not much to expect here. This is definitely one of the weakest cameras on this phone. What do you think about the quality here? Now, one could say the Vivo X90 Pro Plus has a 32 megapixel front-facing camera that easily beats the 8 megapixel camera shooter on the front of the Xperia Pro, is it? Sadly not. We only have 1080p video recording here as well on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, and I think from first glance it looks very similar to the Sony one, so it is not using any better enhanced kind of front-facing video. Has good stabilization for sure. Maybe it's not so cropped in, it's a bit further away, but that's it basically for the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. What do you think about the front-facing video here? Now I'm recording with the highlight of the Sony Xperia Pro I, the 1-inch sensor. It's not using the whole 1-inch here, but still it's giving us a nice background blur, nice colors and good stabilization at 4K 30. What do you think about the Xperia Pro I's main camera here? I really like this RX100 sensor because this RX100 sensor has very good autofocus and especially very quick. So if I hold this here in the camera, it focuses directly on it, and if I go back, it is just focusing on my face very quickly. It's very reliable, especially also in lower light where I use this more often than you might think. You can see all the other videos, and there's some definitely done with the Xperia Pro I, reviews especially, that I like to do indoors when I do unboxings or such things. So very reliable, good camera on the Xperia Pro I. What do you think about this one here? Sadly, even with the new Android 13 upgrade, I don't have the ability to switch during recording to the ultra-wide angle, even though the ultra-wide can also record 4K 30. So I have to stop here and then switch to the ultra-wide and record again. And now we have the ultra-wide angle on the Xperia Pro I, 16mm, also still I think one of the solid choices here for ultra-wide angle. It's only 60mm, but a very good 60mm, so especially around the edges it is not too unsharp, not getting too blurry, but it has some HDR problems. You can see probably that the exposure is not the best here, and that the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, also in the ultra-wide angle, has an advantage there, though I think this one here is a bit softer, and this creates more like of a movie or film-like look, where the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, you will see it in a minute, is sharpening things up a little bit too much for my opinion. But you can write in the comments what you think about this footage here on the Xperia Pro I. And now let's do a zoom test with the 50mm tele lens. I have to stop again and then start recording with it. So I found my perfect mates here to record those ducks here. I can record with 50mm. This is now the 50mm lens on the Xperia Pro I, and I can zoom in of course to 150mm, which is I think 4 times, 5 times, something like this. And you can see the details are there. It's not so bad, I would say, 4K 30, and we can see everything. It's a digital crop, so it's not as good as the 50mm one, but still I think it's okay. What do you think about the zoom lens here on the Xperia Pro I? Oh, now I'm using the 1-inch type sensor that's using the full 1-inch size, just in difference to the Sony, which only uses approximately 1/1.3-inch size. But what do you think about this one? I have a nice background blur for sure here. It's a bit of windy, hopefully you can still hear me. And what we want to do is, of course, a focused test. So is this better than the Sony? I don't think so. It has some focusing issues. This is the Honor Magic 4 Ultimate that I recorded the intro with. What do you think about this one here? In terms of focusing, I think it's quite slow and sometimes misses focus, especially in a bit lower light situations. I had this missing completely the focus, so I had to tap to focus for it to work. Let's go to the ultra wide angle, and what we see immediately on the ultra wide angle is that it's heavily sharpening things up in contrast to the Sony, and it's a bit ultra wide. Yeah, it is 14 millimeters instead of 16 millimeters. Also very good for vlogging, I would say. What do you think about this one here? And of course I can also put a lens right in front of it and it should be able to focus on this. What do you think about this one here? And we will do a zoom test as well. Vivo has a bit of a problem there as well with the zoom test, because we have a bit of a problem when I zoom in. Switch lenses to 1 time. Now it should be able to switch to 2 times, but it's not switching to 2 times. It's not switching to. Now it looks like it switched to something, but it's super bad, so I have to pause the video here. So now this is the 2x zoom on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, and the ducklinks here as well. I chose this time, and if you choose 2x zoom, it's really using the 2x zoom lens. And if I zoom in then further at 1.3.5 times now, I think it switched lenses again. I hope it's using the 3.5 times zoom lens. Anyway, I can zoom in up to 10 times, and I think it looks pretty interesting, doesn't it? So the quality on the zoom I think is a bit better on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus because it has further reach. When it comes to the 50 times zoom, I think there's not much of a difference to the Xperia, but what do you think about this zoom lens here on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus? Let's go back to the 2 times so you can at least a bit compare. There we have the 2 times. So here we have the photos. On the left always the Xperia Pro I, on the right always the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, and we start off with the Christmas tree shot, this time around in daylight conditions, so still indoors, but you can see on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus it looks like daylight. On the Xperia Pro I it looks like it could be darker there because the exposure is much lower. I think it was like figuring out or trying out to have not overexposure here in the background, though we have overexposure there in the background a little bit. It's not really pleasant to look at, but when we take a look at the details here, we can see a bit maybe of noise going on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, not so much, but the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, thanks to the larger sensor and also bigger aperture in comparison to the Xperia Pro I think it has less sharpness here. It is less clear, the snowman again. Even though the details are a bit lacking on the Xperia Pro I because of underexposure, we have more details for sure, and you can clearly see it here where it's very soft on this little guy here. And especially also the Angel, you can see it's way less clear than the Xperia. And definitely you could overexpose the background a bit more on the Xperia Pro I by 2 stops or 1.5 stops, something like this. Then you get something very similar to the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. But if you just capture with the default settings, then the Vivo X90 Pro Plus has the more pleasant image because everything is nice and sharp, or almost nice and sharp, but more exposed. When it comes to the HDR, you can clearly see, yes, the Vivo is the HDR champ. It's, I think, overdoing it sometimes a little bit as well. 2x zoom shots. This is the comparison between native 2x zoom Xperia Pro I against native Vivo X90 Pro Plus zoom shot and default settings. So you can see, yes, it is overdoing it a little bit with the sky color. It's a bit too bluish, where on the Xperia Pro I, it's a bit too yellowish, I would say. In this case, when it comes to details, however, it's very interesting. This very similar. Both are shooting 12 megapixel shots by default, but it's pixel binned on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus from a 50 megapixel sensor, and you can clearly see it as well if you take a look at the tile details here on this big chimney. You can see, maybe it's a processing or just less information on the Xperia Pro I. You don't have so many informations there, and it is not as good. And the same in the green grass. You can see a little bit more of details there that are a bit mushy on the Xperia Pro I. Also, exposure, I think darker again on Xperia Pro I, and a little bit brighter on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. And the same goes for this chimney here, where you can see the tiles, the single tiles, where you don't see it here so much. So yeah, this is one big issue. Otherwise, yeah, I think they're very close. And here again, you can see, interestingly enough, here the Xperia Pro I, especially towards the edges, seems to be a bit sharper than the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, where it's getting a little bit soft, especially towards the edges, where the Xperia keeps a little bit more sharpness there for sure. When it comes to cropping in further on the Xperia Pro I or zooming in further on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus has the 64 megapixel 3.5 times zoom lens and profits enormously from this. This is 5 times zoom roughly. Xperia Pro I 150 millimeters, and you can clearly see here, yeah, not really usable, and the Xperia Pro I is losing against the Vivo X90 Pro Plus tremendously, because we have so much detail here thanks to the bigger sensor. So yeah, definitely when it comes to zoom shots, the Vivo X90 Pro Plus wins hands down. Then we come to the next shot, and this is pretty interesting because we have the default settings of Vivo X90 Pro Plus, and we have the Xperia Pro I this time in P mode, and I was overexposing 2 steps, because when I don't do this, this is the photo I get. Much darker in contrast to the X90 Pro Plus. But we want to compare this one here, and what we can see here is HDR is doing a tremendous job. If we take a look at this here, is without the overexposure, 2 stops, and this is without this is with the exposure. Not much changed in terms of color difference there and overexposure. On the X90 Pro Plus, however, you don't have any overexposure. It's just clouds there everywhere, which is pretty interesting, because with my own eyes I couldn't see that what the X90 Pro Plus is showing here. And I think maybe a tiny bit more artificial looking on the X90 Pro Plus, where especially the houses here, it likes a bit too much sharpness going on, where the Xperia Pro I leaves it a little bit more natural looking, a bit more softer looking. Definitely better HDR, much more details here on the trees that you can see on the X90 Pro Plus that you don't see on the Xperia Pro I for sure. But then we have also, let's compare maybe this overexposed one against the Zeiss mode on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. This is the Zeiss mode here. You can see bluish correct sky, where it's tiny bit bluisher than on the Xperia Pro I still, but much more correct than the one before here. And what we can also see is like, oh, look at that. We have the same, almost the same overexposure here, and not so good HDR, I think, in the sky as on the Xperia Pro I, though we can see again a bit of cooler colors here on the X90 Pro Plus and a bit warmer colors on the Xperia Pro I. Otherwise, the shadow details here both look not so pleasant, but I would prefer the Xperia Pro I here, I have to be completely honest. It leaves it black, where the X90 Pro Plus, I'm not sure what it's doing, but this is not how the trees look like. And you can clearly compare it with before, where it looks like this, much better. And here, I'm not sure what it was doing, but it doesn't look pleasant at all. Then let's go to the ultra wide angle. Ultra wide angle, this time you can see punchy colors. And I think it was captured with the Zeiss mode here as well for the ultra wide angle. So we have much more punchy colors here with the greens, especially. When it comes to sharpness and details, we can see 14mm Vivo X90 Pro Plus, wider field of view, where on the Xperia Pro I 16mm, a tad sharper things around here, especially here in the middle, where we can see a bit more details, a bit more contrasty and punchy color on the X90 Pro Plus. And the sky looks a bit overexposed here on the Xperia Pro I. A bit better here, but here it's a bit darkish, where the Xperia Pro I keeps it a little bit brighter, and I think it has a bit more details as well. So very interesting here indeed. Very close, I would say, but a slight edge maybe to the Xperia Pro I when it comes to the detail level. Otherwise, the wider angle of view, the more dramatic view on the X90 Pro Plus. Now we come to a very unfair test, because the Vivo X90 Pro Plus has macro mode, the Xperia Pro I doesn't have a macro mode. So what I did here is use the closest focusing distance I could get with the main camera. And if I crop in or zoom into 100%, you can roughly get the same, maybe a bit closer up, that you have on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus without going in 100%. Very interesting, and you can see clearly that it's a bit unsharp here on the Xperia Pro I, where it is more contrasty, more sharp on the X90 Pro Plus. If I zoom in, you can see, yeah, it's a bit artificial sharpening. It's like not as clear as it would be, but a typical macro shot where I cannot get closer on the Xperia Pro I. I could try out the ultra wide angle. This is the ultra wide angle. At least, just look at this. This is main. This is ultra wide angle. So I get a bit closer for sure, but not so much. But when we take a look at this, it's much closer now to what we have with the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, zoomed out, by the way. So I cannot zoom in further on the Xperia Pro I, but very, very interesting. So zoom shots, macro capabilities, definitely the Vivo X90 Pro Plus wins here. When it comes to portrait shots, this is now portrait shots with portrait shot with a 2x tele on both. Basically a selfie because I was holding it in my hand. We don't see much of a difference. We see a bit of more contrast added on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, a bit less contrasty, a bit brightened up and a bit more yellowish on the Xperia Pro I. The Xperia Pro I looks a bit more pleasant to the eye because you don't see all my wrinkles and skin problems on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Probably more realistic because you can see all the things. But it's very interesting here. The Xperia Pro I has eye focus detection on the telephoto lens, and this helps tremendously because when I zoomed in, what I saw is, and probably you can see that, it looks like my face is sharp as well, eyebrows sharp, okay, maybe a little slightly unsharp there, but what we can see here is, when you look at the eye, how much clearer, how much sharper it is on the Xperia Pro I. It is a tiny bit unsharp, so it has somehow detected my face and was focusing on my face on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, but my eyes are slightly out of focus, where you only see it side by side really, where the Xperia Pro I is clearer because it was focusing on my eye really. And you can see also in the eyebrows eventually that it's not 100% in focus there. Either it's soft or and the bokeh, by the way, is both natural bokeh, so it's not like artificial bokeh or anything. It's just natural bokeh thanks to the larger aperture and the close-up shot. Then I shot a real portrait shot with bokeh mode, with artificial bokeh adding. And that's very interesting because both struggle with adding HDR really into it. So the sky is completely blown out on both, where the Vivo X90 Pro Plus at least tries to do something where you can see a little bit here of clouds. The Xperia Pro I doesn't do anything there. It was very windy. This is my hair is a bit messy. You can see brighter exposure a bit on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, and this time around in this HDR kind of situation, Sony struggles a little bit more with this portrait shot because I think it's not utilizing the 50mm lens here for this one. And if it is, then it's doing a poor job because here you can see noisy, sharpness maybe missing. It's much clearer now on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Though I think the eyes are still not 100% sharp like it was in the previous shot, but yeah, it is what it is. When it comes to like here, the ears a bit like cut off, where here you can see the ears still, so they have a bit of problems still. Also, of course, with the messy hair, both have like problems doing a right cutout there for this artificial bokeh mode. What do you think about this one here? And then another main shot, just to see again, this is without P mode and overexposing two stops. This is how it looks like, and this is when I add this manually to get roughly the same exposure. This is in Zeiss T, Zeiss mode here. This is without Zeiss mode, a bit punchier. This is a bit more realistic here, and again we have the overexposure here. But when I zoom in, you can see maybe a bit, it looks a bit edited, especially the sky here on the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, where yeah, it's definitely overexposed on the Xperia Pro I, and the details is not over sharpened like here a bit, but it's just more detailed on the X90 Pro Plus as well. So yeah, it is what it is. I prefer maybe the X90 Pro Plus just of the sky, even though it's a bit too artificial looking, I have to say there. So a mixture of both would be fine. Maybe the Xperia Pro I photo with Google Photos HDR function can be, or push or pull down a little bit the highs, and then we have the white spots, and we have maybe something better. Ultra wide angle shot, again a bit underexposed here. In general, the ultra wide angle is a bit better on the Xperia. When it comes to dark shots, very interested interesting here, because the Xperia is one of the only cameras that gets the white balance right here, because this is the right color of my bathroom, and it's a bit greenish, kind of a bit vignetting here as well, maybe both a bit vignetting, but a bit of greenish yellowish on the X90 Pro Plus. And when I zoom in, we can see, yeah, in terms of detail level, it is better on the X90 Pro Plus, but it's not ways better. You can see the background here, definitely better algorithm and sharpness, you can read it more clear. But I don't see much of a difference there. The Xperia keeps a bit of more noise, where the X90 Pro Plus has a more noise reduction. We can clearly see it here. And yeah, I think it's doing a better job, the X90 Pro Plus, in terms of details, but Xperia wins in terms of colors. And this is now the nighttime shot. Xperia Pro I, for some reason, in this like little shed, didn't turn even on nighttime mode for some reason. So I had to force it by just covering the sensors a bit with my hand to get to nighttime mode. The Vivo X90 Pro Plus was directly doing nighttime mode. This is nighttime shot, you can see. Doing a pretty good job, I would say. It was a bit darker outside. This is why we have a little window there in this little shed and yeah, or cabin. And yeah, it was a bit darker outside, so this is why it's a bit darker exposed, so you don't see much of the details here. Xperia Pro I failed here, but when I triggered it manually to do this, it's brighter, definitely. It's a bit warmer for sure again, where it's on the X90 Pro Plus a bit greenish tendency to go greenish, but detail level is like night and day difference here again. The Vivo X90 Pro Plus is better. Xperia very noisy, has too high ISO, I think. And when I go into manual mode, I try to do this on the Xperia Pro I to get it even better. You can see I get it cleaner for sure, but I had to raise the shutter speed a lot, and this resulted into a bit of blur. If Sony could fix this somehow, I think Sony could also win here in nighttime mode, or at least keep up with the X90 Pro Plus. And yeah, that's everything in terms of photos. I think, yeah, the clear winner is the X90 Pro Plus in the end. The Xperia is not so far off, I would say, but has its weakness in HDR on the main camera sensor. The zoom is a lost cause, everything beyond 2x zoom, but up until 2x zoom, I think the Xperia Pro I has a better focusing system, where it's focusing, especially when you're photographing people, on the eye instead of only the face, where it's a bit, you know, always slightly out of focus on the X90 Pro Plus. Ultra wide angle, I think I give it to the Xperia Pro I here. It's not as wide, but the detail level is there. But can I really give it? Probably not, because of HDR problems again, and darker exposure, which is, yeah, in post you can edit this. But no, I have to give it to the X90 Pro Plus here, because it's just like point and shoot and it works. And on the Xperia Pro I, it's very close, but Sony needs to invest a little bit more into its auto mode. Otherwise, yeah, if I compare the manual mode against the auto mode, it's a bit unfair. So definitely on the X90 Pro Plus in manual mode, you can do also better. Anyway, what do you think about those photos here? In general, yeah, the X90 Pro Plus takes the better pictures, but it's not a tremendous win. It is not such a tremendous difference as it was against the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, for sure, where the Xperia Pro I, in my personal test, also beat the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. So I think, yeah, the Xperia Pro I is still better than the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, but has to lose against the X90 Pro Plus, at least as long as Sony is not upgrading the software to do better HDR. And yeah, this is basically everything. If they would do better HDR, then it could, even in some categories like the ultra wide angle, win against the X90 Pro Plus. What do you think? Write it down in the comment section. That's everything for the short little video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, and still Happy New Year. I think I should stop in the middle of January with this, but yeah. Until the next time. Bye.